All right, sorry about that, guys. We are back here, and yeah, let's go and take a look at the roster here that I'm using. Again, first of all, with the starters, I use Cal Eldred, use him as my #1 guy, and he's very expensive. You will see most teams using Lucas Giolotto, and this is not the live version. This is the historical version, I guess, from 2019. Many teams use him. Many teams use him in their top 3. He is considered one of the meta pitchers right now. So I would recommend you go get him. If you want to get involved in the bronze tournaments, you can pick him in the card shop for 305 points. In fact, if you put a buy order in probably for 200, 250, it will probably be filled within 24 hours. So Lucas Giolito, definite must, in my opinion, for your bronze tournaments. Another starting pitcher that a lot of people use, highly recommend that you pick up that guy, this guy here, Dave McNally. High pitcher BABIP, so not gonna give up a lot of hits. Home runs could be a little scary because he doesn't have that high home run suppression, but again, he is considered by many one of the elite bronze pitchers still in the game, and I use him as my #3 guy, Dave McNally. Next, Ted Lilly. Now, Ted Lilly is one of these that you can probably exchange in and out. He's kind of in a grouping for myself with other pitchers. Danny Cox, Alex Cobb, a lot of, Oral Hershiser. He's kind of in that next group. I have Eldridge, McNally, and Giolito as high tier, and then I have these other guys one notch down. So really good lefty to have in the game. You want, make sure you have some lefties so they don't dominate you one side of the plate. I've got 2 lefties, 3 righties. So I use Ted Lilly, very inexpensive. Not everyone does, but right now on the card shop, you can pick him up for $50. Very, very cheap investment. My #5 guy, again, right now is Oral Hershiser, but I move them back and forth. Sometimes I have Hershiser in the pen, and I might bring in Alex Cobb off my reserve list. So I'm kind of going back between Hershiser, Cobb, Jumbo Elliott, I think is another one on my reserve. Some people use Connie Rector from the Negro League set, but I use Oral Hershiser, and I use him because he's got, again, that really good pitcher BABIP. He's got a decent home run suppression, and he's just, your basic overall guy. He's a ground ball pitcher, and from what I've seen analyzing a few tournaments, he tends to do better than not better. He'll have bad tournaments on teams, but he'll also have really good tournaments. So he's kind of that #5 guy that I use. Now, one guy I would like to get my hands on that I would put as a starting 5, if you're able to get him, is the new LE, Jim Deshays, don't know how you pronounce that, from the Houston Astros. You can see his pitcher BABIP, again, elite, got okay home run suppression, fairly decent stuff, control better than a lot of pitchers in bronze. So this would be a guy that would be in my starting 5 if I could afford him. But right now he is going for $79,000, and you can see the demand for him. We've got 1, 2, 3 willing to pay a really high price. I have a buy order for $24,000 because I'm willing to wait, because I don't think he's not a Sandy Koufax, Cal Eldred elite pitcher. I think he's really good, but I think eventually he's going to be pushed out. Within a month, I think he'll be pushed out of the bronze starting 5 rotation because other pitchers will come along. So I'm not going to pay the house for him and pay $79,000. If I get him for $24,000, great. It's worth it for me then. If I don't, then I'm still doing okay. As you saw with my results, I'm still doing okay without this card. Deshays. Thank you. Thank you, Chess. So those are the guys that I use as my starting five that in the last week have been pretty successful. Now, there have been a lot of meta cards coming out for bronze in the bullpen. Absolutely. Get Hasagawa. Hasagawa should be on your bronze team, and you can get him. There's one right now for 333. I would jump on that. I would take him for 333 because with no um, uh, spotlight packs out right now, you're probably not going to get a lot of these pulled. People tend to pull a lot of spotlight packs, so the market is flooded for a short period of time. But right now, there's only 3 on the market, and I think 333 for an elite bronze tournament guy is very fair value. So I would recommend you get him. Look at all that blue. Ignore the movement. Look at home run suppression. Look at pitcher BABIP. He's got really good control. The stuff kind of worried me, really worried me, but it does its job. And remember, a lot of times that home run suppression and pitcher BABIP will be good enough. Ground ball pitcher, GT, you won the daily early silver. First time. Well, that's 2. We had a couple people. Hero Driver said he won the daily bronze, I think. You said you won the daily silver. Someone's got to post that they won the daily gold. We're working our way up on stream here. Congratulations, GT. You knock me out and you win the silver. What does that get you, the daily early silver? Packs or a high diamond choice pack? So Chess is suggesting a card here for I guess the starting rotation. So let's check this picture out. Oh, I remember. Yeah, in perfect draft, sometimes I see this guy. So curious, because normally this would not be a guy that I would draft, Bill Whirl. I'm curious what you think might work for him. I'm guessing probably the control and maybe, the really good curveball. Any guesses, Chess, why you think this pitcher has performed for you pretty good? And I think you probably use him in probably like the number 4 or 5 slot. But yeah, great, to point out some of these other cards that are working for some people. And Brydab, we've got a hype train going here, guys, of a different variety. Hero Driver with the bronze, GT Sundown with the silver, and Brydab winning the overnight gold entry fee. That's the same one that D Dempsey knocked me out of. And then he went on and just lost out before the money round. All right. So now we need someone that's won a key diamond tournament. We're working our way up. Great 7 GM battle in early silver. All right. So Spore in with some tournament news too. So we're looking for an iron recent winner and we're looking for a diamond and perfect. So anyway, we've got, and then Hawk Moon's coming in. Won the high silver floor, low diamond cap. Hawk Moon on the roll. Congratulations. There's the diamond. Well, now we need I guess, a 128 team for the perfect choice pack winner. Has anyone won a perfect choice pack in the last 24 to 38 hours? And an iron. We still need an iron winner too. So Chess with Bill is saying that seldom doesn't seem to have an off day. Consistent starter or long reliever. Yeah, I would trust him in a long relief role. Absolutely, with that control and the stuff. But yeah, it's pretty cool that he's working for you as a starter, because I would not think with that home run suppression and pitcher BABIP he would. But that's why I'm asking you guys, who do you use that you have success with? Also, another really good card that came out recently is this Mike Timlin. I recommend, if you're playing bronze tournaments, you use him with A caveat, he may give up the odd home run against the righties. But Mike Timlin got really good reviews from Izadafo and from Charles on their Warbot report. We didn't talk about him much last week on the Hawk report, but I'm hearing a lot of good things about him. And you can get him on the card shop, but he is going to cost you. He's going pretty high right now. But again, he is a new card, and he's part of the Scott Rowland mission. So that kind of inflates his price. These prices are probably not because he's a really good bronze card. It's probably because of the mission, and it's because it's a new card. So I would, if I were you, I wouldn't mind paying last 10 price. I'd pay 1,500. In fact, that's probably what I paid for Mike Timlin, was about 1,500. So if you put a buy order in, probably within the next couple of days, you'll get him. So in the tournaments I've run him in, I have been watching him, and he, in the 6 tournaments I've tracked in the bullpen, his ERA's been 3 or lower. To me, that's success. So he hasn't pitched a ton of innings, but when he has, he's been pretty successful. So I've got him as a stopper, which again is dangerous because if they put in a pinch hitter righty, could be a home run. But I'm trying him as a stopper and set up as a secondary role, and he's been under 3 ERA 6 games so far. Small sample size. Next up in my bullpen, I've got some old starters that I used to use. I used to use this Larry Cheney card. Again, high pitcher BABIP, decent home run suppression, really good stuff. I think maybe 1 out of 10 tournaments, he lays an egg. Maybe 3 out of 10, he's a little bit below average, but 6 out of 10, he's either average or better. So he's staying on the team, really solid middle reliever. I use him as a more often kind of pitcher. Same with Wilbur Wood. I have Wilbur Wood in my top 13 pitchers for bronze tournaments. Remember, these are not for cap tournaments. These are not for, silver. These are specifically for quicks. I've placed in 7 of my last 14, so I've been pretty successful. Yes, a lot of that will be luck, but some has to do with the players too, I would like to think. So Wilbur Wood, successful for me. I'm in a tournament right now, pitched 1 inning, gave up 1 hit. But again, that high home run, high pitcher BABIP. Larry Gura, I used to have in my starting rotation, but I moved him to the bullpen, using him as a middle reliever, long relief kind of role. I think that's the best role for him. And again, he has his odd stinker. And then the 2 cards I'm really testing out. Warbot's flavor of the week is this card here, the Sean Marshall. If you've caught the Warbot stream, if you caught our stream last Thursday, he really likes this card. Izadafo was a little bit more down on the card, but it's a curious card. Not going to give up a lot of home runs, but the pitcher BABIP, is it going to be to a point where you don't want him on a team? Is it going to be too detrimental? And Warbot used him in a tournament on stream last week, and I think Marshall had like a 0 ERA, very close to it. Like he pitched in 4 or 5 games and did wonderful in the test case that Warbot was using him. So I'm using him now, but I'm using him in that kind of broken specialist role against the lefties. But I've thrown him in the setup too. Come in and scare a few people and not give up that home run. Because in the 9th inning, in the 8th inning, I don't want to give up a home run. I'll give up a few hits, but I don't want to give up that key home run. And remember, in bronze tournaments, so many people take power guys. So you want to combat that power Joey Gallo, that power Dave Kingman with a home run suppression pitcher. So yeah, I'm playing around with his role a little bit, and same with the Ray King. Funny makeup for this card here. Not very good stuff, not very good control, but a lot of blue in the middle. That sandwich, the bread might not look that good, but the meat in between, oh, it's delicious. Home runs against the lefties and even against the or good against the lefties, but even against the righties is much better than most pitchers. Ground ball pitcher. So if you have, I mean, I think for both Marshall and for King and for Timlin, you better have good infielders, above average infielders, because two of the three are ground ball. So, yeah, I've had success bringing these guys into the lineup. Like I said, I've placed in 7 of the last 14. They've been in the lineup for 10 of the 14. And it's working for me in the tournament. Now, I'm only up 1-0. I'm in a live tournament right now. But there's my pitching. My pitching staff, I guess you call them. Let me go over the chat because I'm curious what you guys think. Who do you have in your lineup that's working that I may not use? Who do you have that I'm using that you're also having success with? Because I'm just one player. I'm just one manager that's had some recent success. It is not a large enough sample size to declare any kind of prophetic victory over bronze tournaments. Not at all. So I'd like to hear from you guys. Cubs fan, Marshall scares you. Yeah, he scares a lot of us, but I think he's that high risk, high reward kind of card that once we feel him out a little bit and kind of get a better sample size, he could be really good to have on your team. Right now, if you want a Sean Marshall, he's at a very fair price, I think, for this stage in the game as a newer card. 888. You're going to pay more than double if you wait. So, if you have some spare perfect points, go grab a Sean Marshall. Really, the bronze tournaments, a lot of it's test things out, have fun. Try some of these unique cards. Yeah, absolutely. Ray King. And that's, again, it's a fun card sport. It's not your traditional kind of makeup. And I like fun cards in bronze tournaments like this. I like that uncertainty where you can't predict exactly how he's going to do. You can have a general assumption of he's teams aren't going to rake. They're not going to rake against him, but to pinpoint exactly what kind of game you're going to get out of him, fun card. So yeah, hopefully, and that's when new cards are released. I have to say, recently, I'm so happy that some of the new cards have been for these lower tournaments. Those of us that play iron and bronze and silver, we're getting some new blood in the game that aren't for sure things, but are testable things, and gives us a couple of weeks to kind of play around. And maybe Sean Marshall is a dud, and after 20 tournaments, he's just giving up way too many hits. Well, I had fun trying him out. So what else are you guys thinking about pitchers? Let's talk about pitchers. Do I ever run? Yes. When we get to the batters, you'll see a few iron guys. Pitchers, I stopped about a month ago. I used to have Carl Lundgren. So Carl, where is he here? This pitcher here. So I used to use this guy. I use him in my iron tournaments. He's one of my top 3 or 4 in my iron tournaments. But I found that control was just too detrimental. Like, otherwise, really good pitcher. If that control was 10 higher, I'd still probably use him in my bronze tournaments. But yeah, I just found the control a little bit too low. Well, a lot too low. But I used him. And the other guy I used in bronze for a long time was this guy here. Again, really good home run suppression, really good pitcher BABIP. But again, that control is 10 points lower than I would want it to be to play in bronze tournaments. I think he would just get raked a little too much in bronze tournaments. So yeah, those are two of the iron guys. And another one that I did use a really good iron card is the L lighter. A lot of iron teams will use L lighter, but you see a common theme, Chess, don't you? All of the ones I've shown you have really good home run suppression, pitcher BABIP, but low control. So there, I think for myself, there does come a point where that low control does cost you when you get up to bronze. If that was 45, 50, I think they'd be great cards at the bronze level. But then they wouldn't be an iron card, would they? They'd be a bronze card. Okay, so we've got the Orlando Hernandez. And yeah, Spore, I'm glad you're here to kind of give your opinion about, maybe not so much about specific makeup of the card, but as a franchise player, how, what you're going to get out of some of these cards if you put them in the game. So here's an interesting one because the control is over that 40 mark, and 40 is kind of my barrier for bronze. Like if they're under 40, I kind of don't want to use them, especially in a starting role. Otherwise, pretty balanced. Pitcher BABIP, might be a little bit low for me. And he is a fly ball guy. So because you have all those power guys that you're facing off against, I'm thinking that they're still going to tag him a fair bit for home runs. So unless you have, really good outfield defense, if you have really good gloves in the outfield, that's going to help him. But I don't think he would fit in my top 5. I just think that Hershiser, Cobb, Lilly, Cox. I mean, take a look at. Here's a guy I just took off last week. And, he's got pretty good home run suppression and pitcher BABIP, but I took him out a little bit because of the splittiness as a starter, but kind of the reverse of those low control guys, kind of low stuff. I think he'd work a lot better in the bullpen. He's probably a guy I would feel comfortable keeping in the bullpen because then they get that stuff boost, or apparently they get a stuff boost. So he'd be even a better pitcher working out of the bullpen. Any other pitcher questions for bronze that you guys may have, or any other pitchers that you might suggest for all those bronze players out there? Again, here's a quick peek at mine. Like I said, the only guy I would like to get in my lineup right now, this is the only guy I'd like to add. Everyone else, I like who I have. This is the only guy I would like to add, but because he's a limited edition, the good news is there's 100 of them. I think they've all been pulled already because they're bronze cards. I don't think there are 100 bronze quick tournament players, so some will be sold. I think if you're patient and put a buy order in between 20 and 40,000, you may get him at some point. I don't think though he's going to drop below 20,000. I don't think you're ever going to get him for below 20 until much later in the game when new pitchers come along that replace him. But for the next month, 2 months, you're probably not going to get him for below 20,000. He's good, but he's not quite this guy. This guy still works for me better. The other one that I know a lot of people, since we're still talking about pitchers, and Spore, another great card that you put out recently was the Expo Charlie Lee. Another kind of fun card to use. This would be one chess that I would feel comfortable with playing in bronze. And in fact, I think a lot of people do use him in bronze. And if I start going on a big losing streak, I think I am going to bring him in. So this is one pitcher that, by all means, I recommend you try him out, and probably as a starter. I think he would be a really good number 4 or 5 guy. I don't think he beats the top 3, but definitely I think he can go in the number 4 or 5 position. And of course, it's an expo. You can't go wrong with an expo. So many expo fans in the chat. All right, chat. Anything else about pitchers? Ask now. We've got Spore here. We've got a lot of bronze players showing you my team. Or is there any card here that I know Cubs fan Steve said that maybe Sean Marshall would be one he would be a little iffy on playing? Is there anyone else that you see on my pitching staff that you absolutely wouldn't play? Oh, another one I had in for a couple tournaments, but he didn't quite make it for me. Is this Boddicker card? You Oriole fans, you got yourself a Mike Boddicker. Like I like the stat, I like the ratings, but he's splitty. I think he would do much better in the bullpen. I think, in fact, I might add him to my bullpen. I might take out a Larry Gura because I don't want to take out Cheney or Wood. I just like those guys too much. But I could see myself taking out Gura and putting him in because, again, he's going to get that stuff boost as a starter. He's a ground ball pitcher, which I like. So, yeah, good call there on the Boddicker Hawkmoon. Yeah, good call. Do you use him, though, as a starter or do you use him as a reliever? And Charles, with his opinion there about the card we talked about earlier as well. All right, so one last look. Any other thoughts about starting pitching in Bronze Quicks? You know, a lot of pitchers are going to get lit up because you're going against the meta power, the meta eye. So you're not going to get a lot of pitchers below, a 2 ERA. Be happy if it's below 4 ERA. But this setup has done pretty good for me. Right now in the tournament, I'm up 2-0 against the Big Bang expansion. Well, IBDB. Haven't seen you in the chat recently. Maybe you're on holidays, but up against IBDB's team. And again, just looking for comparison, at other great managers. Big Bang. Big Bang. They've got Giolito. They've got Lily. Key is one I see used a lot. I don't use him. I've never had success with Jimmy Key. I like Jimmy Key. He was a Blue Jay, but I've never had success using him. He has Hershiser. This one here, I'm curious about that control. Remember I said I like at least 40 for my starters in bronze. He just would be barely, but again, the splittiness, I don't think I'd trust him as a starter. But if he works for you, great. They've got McNally as a closer, which nothing wrong with that, but I think he's more effective as a starter. Ace Adams is one that a lot of people use, and when you look at this card, he looks really good. Pitcher BABIP, home run suppression, control, but he's probably in the top 10 of many teams' bullpens. This card I didn't use after the first couple tournaments. It was one of those cards that just didn't work for me. Looks good on the surface, but again, that control, he was giving up too many walks for me. Never used this guy. I don't know if this is a mistake or if IBDB autofilled his roster or something, but I don't know why Blanco is in the lineup there, especially against the meta hitters. IBDB has been sending you restaurant Rex from Maui. Oh, right. He's in Maui. Yeah, he is off in the sun. Reminder, TJ Lowerman is on the beach as well. TJ Lowerman will not be on tonight to give you the official packs. Don't know if anyone's going to fill in his place, but no TJ tonight. All right, so it looks like we won game 3. Let's take a quick peek here. 4-2, so we won 8-2, 7-0, and 4-2, as long as we don't have that reverse sweep. All right, so there is the pitching recommendations that I give. Again, I don't do any modeling spreadsheets. I leave that up to the pros, the mathematical minds. I go based on intuition and advice from people like Charles. So take it for what you will. It's worked fairly well recently. Last chance for pitcher questions or pitcher suggestions. I do run a 12-man rotation. And right now I'm kind of doing things in pairs, 2 stoppers, 2 specialists, because I want to test them out. Now, notice they've played 3 games and my bullpen hasn't been used much because I have on my strategy, I've got, where is it? Oh, I've got hook starters at low. Oh yeah, I'm going with a little unorthodox strategy here. A lot of managers have slow hooks on their pitchers. For these tournaments, for some reason, this has been working for me. Low hooks. But yet, we don't have a lot of low hooks. We've got Eldred, who pitched 141 pitches. Now, do I have a personal strategy for him? No, I don't. So that is odd. I've got low hooks. Or does that mean, am I getting this wrong? Does that mean the hook starting pitcher? I've got it on quick. Yeah. And Eldred threw 141 pitches. Giolito. Okay, he threw 93. McNally, 85. Okay, so it's working for a couple of them. All right, so let's move on to the hitters, because here we see kind of a huge variety of hitters being used. Some guys I'm very loyal to, and even though they probably shouldn't be on the team, I keep them on the team. I do use 3 irons here, Chess. I still use Dave Kingman, which he's short. He's not going to be here much longer. As soon as we come out with what I think is a high-end third base replacement, and maybe there's one out there. Honestly, I haven't searched in the last week for a better one. I also use Jimmy Ryan. I think it's a must card. I think this is the best card, best iron card by far, hitter-wise, and might even be the best card tournament-wise that's bronze or lower. Really, 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 really like this Jimmy Ryan. And I mean, it's not a lot of dark blue on him, but he just gets the job done. Look, in this tournament, he went 2 for 4, 3 for 5, 1 for 4, and he's hitting 462, and he consistently in tournaments hits above 280 for me. Rarely do I find a tournament where he's hit under 280 with more than 12 plate appearances. I don't use him as a pitcher, but that's a good call. You could probably put him in a mop-up role if you're running 11 pitchers, because some people run 11 pitchers. Might not be bad to put him in a low leverage or avoid high leverage mop-up role. Yeah, eat some innings. Outside of Mathis, yeah. Outside of Mathis, good point there. I always forget about Mathis. Maybe because it was only recently that I acquired him. So Jimmy Ryan, and then my third iron, here he is, Jeff Mathis. And again, you're not getting him for his bat, although he's got 2 hits and 6 at-bats. So he does contribute. There's some tournaments I see him finishing over 400 hitting with, between 10 and 15 at-bats. So he can have a lot of success at the plate, but you're not getting him for that. You're getting him for his fielding. You're getting him for his framing. He's already at 0.3 framing after 2 games. If you're new to OOTP, look at catcher ability. That's the most important stat right here. I mean, that's going to bring this up as well. And catcher arm, yeah, is important, but catcher ability, because catcher ability will get those strike calls on a 3-2 count, on an iffy pitch, strike. Whereas a catcher with a low ability, 3-2 count, iffy pitch, ball 4. In a nutshell, that's how I see the frame rate and the catcher ability, is getting those questionable calls with a guy like Jeff Mathis. And I don't know if anyone's in Perfect League this week. If you have your game open, if you can do a search for me, how many Jeff Mathis cards are played in Perfect League this week? Because in previous weeks, we always saw some Jeff Mathis. Some are using Drew Romo. Some are using Bill Dickey, the gold Bill Dickey. Those are kind of the three that stand out for that catcher ability. The Russell Martin Tournament Edition card, 97, I think he is. Really good card too. But again, you're going to have to pay up a little bit for Jeff Mathis. Jeff is Mark Mathis. 33,000. Buy order in for 25,000. So one serious buy order. I think I got him when Spotlight Packs came out. I think I got him for 25,000, because when Spotlight Packs came out, the mission cards were in there. So a lot more people were finishing the Jeff Mathis mission. But once those packs are gone, his price goes up. And it's going to stay there until Mr. Sporer gives us another high catcher ability card, which will come at some point. My guess it's going to be a Yogi Berra or a Yadiel Molina, one of those type of players I think is going to have a high catcher ability card. But for cap tournaments, for low-level tournaments, I don't think he's going to be pushed out of the meta. I don't think we're going to see another card under 59 with the power that this card has. I could be wrong, but I think Jeff is here to stay. I think he's well worth 25,000 perfect points. Part of me would say if you plan on playing a lot of tournaments, you will get that back. The return of investment will take a couple weeks, and you'll make that back just by using Jeff Mathis in iron or bronze. In silver, maybe go with Drew Romo. You don't have to buy the Jeff Mathis. And yeah, Sporer agrees. Mathis is, and again, it's fun when, whether you like these meta cards at the low level, I do, because I play low level tournaments. So I like them. As a cap player, you must like them as well. The danger is if you have too many of them, everyone has the same roster, and you don't want that. But when they're sprinkled in once in a while, yeah, they're kind of cool. All right, so those are the 3 irons I'm using. Is anyone else in Bronze Tournament using any other iron cards? Are there any for the batters, not for the pitchers? Put it in chat. We got an ad break coming up here, guys, soon, so we'll come back. We will continue looking at some of these bronze batters and why I use them. And we'll go back and we'll look at the bounty tournament, and then Babe Ruth. Yes, Babe Ruth gets to play with Mike Trout and Shohei and Ohtani. Be back in 2 minutes. All right, welcome back in from the break here, guys. And yeah, going a little bit longer than usual, but I'm really enjoying the conversation, so I don't mind that. So big apologies for to Dr. D, who I think has started already. But I think this, is a good conversation. A lot of you guys giving good advice. Bronze tournaments, again, a fun way to play the game, fairly cheap that you can get into it and still compete without having, all the very expensive meta. Again, I don't have that one Astros pitcher card, too expensive for me. I'm not willing to pay that much. and still doing pretty well. And thanks for everyone contributing to the chat. I see Chess Safari has mentioned another card here. Kenny Lofton Iron. You use him. I have not ever used him, even in my Iron tournaments. I don't use him in the outfield. I guess I use Jimmy Ryan, and I think I use Jimmy Wynn, I think. Gorman Thomas I have in Iron, which mainly a DH. I think I use Gillenwater. Gillenwater. I think, though, he might be a bronze. All right, so here is Kenny Lofton. Again, for what the eye test, most people look at the power and the eye. Eye's pretty good, but the power, you're probably not going to get a lot of offense out of him. Good speed. Not going to make a lot of errors. I think he's good. I just don't think he beats the other options out there at center field. But if he's working for you, that's what's great about this game. Cards that might not pass the eye test but work, all the best in using him. That's why some teams win tournaments that you don't expect them to, because some of these cards come out of the woodwork. Again, Babe in the Matrix. We're going to jump to that, guys, and do a quick run through in Babe in the Matrix. Here is the entry form. If you haven't filled it out yet, you've got about 5 more minutes before we end that form off. Estimate, guess, predict how many home runs Babe is going to hit. He is going to Anaheim. He is playing with Mike Trout and Ohtani in 2023, starting on April 1st. It is no joke. Ohtani, Trout, Babe Ruth on the same team. All right. Also have as my catchers here, of course, I've got Mathis. I've got Petway. Just because of his versatility, he can play so many positions. Not going to hit a lot of home runs. I've also got Dink, one of my favorite cards in the game. Still, versatility. He can catch. So I've got plenty of catching backup roles. And a card I've loved from the beginning. Another shout out to Sporer for this card here, giving us at least giving me. I think Izadafo likes this card. I think Charles has, I think Charles at first was a little bit uncertain of this card, but I've heard him promote this card on his stream too. But I've liked him right out of the gate. I've said right from day one, I'm playing him. He's going up against my lefties. And I think, Charles, the reason why that you were a little iffy, because he was a one-position guy that was splitty. So, yeah, he does cost me because I only use him against the lefties in the leadoff role. So, yeah, that I'm probably not maximizing my potential of a roster because he's very specific to the one side of the plate and one position. Who else do I got? I do use the bronze Jackie Robinson. Been pretty successful for me, but roller coaster. Some teams don't use them. Use Mark DeRosa. Again, versatility. Outfield, I've got Gorman Thomas. I guess he's bronze. I thought he was an iron, but he's a bronze. Again, power, eye. He's usually my DH. Shortstop. I used Herman Long and Woody Held for a long time. Held and long. But then as I analyzed a few tournaments, I saw this George Davis do really well. And I'm like, hey, I'm going to try out George Davis. And he's done really well for me. Shortstop defense is good. In this tournament here, he's gone 3 for 9. Which again is good. So yeah, if you haven't tried out George Davis, I kind of recommend you might want to give him a shot. Who else? Billy Hamilton. Again, great center fielder. So a lot of the top players always say that when you build a roster, you should see no white font on this screen here. Because if you see all green, that means that all your players are starting in one position somewhere. So you've effectively utilized your players. Now, I've got them all except Billy Hamilton. So I'm close. I wasn't playing him in any builds back when I was building a roster seriously, but I really like the card design since it forces you to make tough decisions. I don't know whether the meta has changed enough to play pretty since I'm not playing it anymore. Okay. And that's, yeah, I don't microscopically, which I just never have looked at if there is a better option. There probably is. I don't know, but I don't know. He's working for me. And as you say, it forces you to make tough decisions, like one position player on one side of the plate. I'm sacrificing that for having another guy in that's a multi-positional player that is more balanced. So, yeah. All right. Last chance questions for bronze tournaments. How am I doing in this one right here? I'm up 3-1 against IBDB off surfing somewhere in Hawaii. Again, you can see kind of the leaderboard, although a very, very small sample size. Eldred leading in war 0.6. So he had a really strong game. Jimmy Ryan's up there. And once you're done the tournament, new players, go open it up again and look at the leaderboards. And once it's done, you'll see a lot of common players doing really well, both the batters and the pitchers. And if you're a spreadsheet type of person, you can go into sortable stats. You can go and you can open a report or write the report to disk and bring it into spreadsheets and do wonders. Like 39 Cobra Vulcan is an expert on the iron and analyzes them to death and does really well in iron tournaments. Hope to have him back on the show at some point because I really value the input that he gives for iron tournament players. And Charles does it in mini tournaments, and Isadalfo and Extoforas and I Rock This and so many people that don't go on streams that are really knowledgeable about these cards.